Good evening, everyone. And on behalf of South Asia Research Institute for Minorities, I warmly welcome you to today's what would be a thought-provoking podcast, where we would be focusing on geopolitics of tolerance, navigating diversity in a divided world. As we live or stand in a moment of history, we would see and observe where the rise of nationalism, political polarization, and technological transformation, plus shifting power structures, continue to reshape the global interactions. The question of how societies can build and sustain tolerance has never been more urgent than this. And to speak and to cover up or to mitigate the urgency, we have the privilege of having none other than Ms. Soumya Tiwari with us, who is a doctoral researcher at FORE, the School of Management. She is also heading as a deputy head of academic affairs at the International Association of Political Sciences Students, where I also had the pleasure of working with her as a journal research coordinator of IAPSS. So it's a great experience to have you once again, Soumya, with a different dimension. Your academic and professional work lies at the intersection of global governance, identity, and diversity studies. So this would be a more, aligned guest, I would say, in terms of bringing essentiality in today's dialogue. So, Soumya, I won't be wasting much of your time because I know it's Sunday. And I would begin this podcast with a question regarding your academic and professional uh, uh, path, which spans around leadership engagement in global academic networks. Like, Uh, what inspired you to pursue that journey in studying diversity, tolerance, and geopolitics? I know you are a political science student. That must be, your forte. And how has your perspective evolved over time? Over to you.
Firstly, thank you so much, Furqan, for inviting me. It's indeed, always a pleasure to delve deeper in enriching conversations with you because you yourself are a very intellectual scholar. So it's always a great conversation with you, and it's indeed again a pleasure to again be again associated with South Asian Research Educational Society for Minorities, and for having me here to podcast feels quite big. So. Coming back to your question, I would start with my academic journey onto how I started and how my paths differed. And finally, I ventured into studying geopolitics for my own research. So I was a very keen social science enthusiastic. Now, when I say social science enthusiast, I always liked studying political science. So 10th May, in 10th standard, I had civics. So I was very passionately studying that. Then in 11th, I chose to opt humanities, giving my background and giving my passion for that subject. And I started developing very rich understanding based on those subjects because you read a lot, plethora of things when you reach class 11. And then over passing on my 12th, when I had to decide what subject now I would be studying deeper. And the only thought that I had in my mind was that I would want to go deeper into studying political science. And then that was the year in 2000, back in 2015, when I joined University of Delhi as a political science graduate. And I still remember and reminisce those days. Those 3 years were the years where I actually focused and understood how does the global politics really works. Now, because when you deal with political science, you have a lot of things. You have comparative politics, you have global politics, you have world politics, international foreign policy, and a lot of other related disciplines as well. With that curiosity, there was a dream right from the childhood that I want to serve as an IAS officer. And with that been in my mind, I started preparing for UPSC, which is Union Public Service Commission. And not knowing what life ahead wants from me, I prepared for it. But I could not clear it. Now, that was luck, and maybe something ahead was waiting for me. So, in 2019, I gave my first attempt, and I was not satisfied with the result. Then I thought, another attempt I will give certainly, but now it's right time to prepare for my master's. And I thought, since I'm already preparing for UPSC and I have my options as political science, I would like to focus more on masters in political science with specialization in international relations. Now, why I thought that? Because, it will help me cover my syllabus and maybe I will be more prepared for the next attempt, not knowing what lies ahead again. So I prepared rigorously, completed 2 years. Then I gave my first attempt in 2019, and after that, second attempt in 2020. Again, that was not cleared. Surprisingly, I was very demotivated. And in the month of October, in the year 2020, I appeared for CDS not knowing that my result would be cleared. And I get to know that the paper is cleared. I have cleared the CDS examination. Now becomes real challenge, what to do now. So okay, there's mental thoughts going in the mind that I need to focus on the physical bent, I need to focus on the social bent, and I need to prepare for the psychological bent as well. I started preparing for it very rigorously. Again, there was another setback because I could not clear the interview. Now this was a very demotivating period for me, but I stood strong with the support of my friends, my parents, my teachers. And then I thought that maybe this is not what life wants from me. And I enrolled myself for a diploma in international affairs and diplomacy under the aegis of Confederation of Young Leaders. I did a 6 month diploma over there, prepared for numerous government exams. Somewhere I cleared the exam, somewhere I just missed with few marks, somewhere I could not clear the interview. So that was the whole scenario till the 2021 end that was going on, which was keeping me very, very demotivated. That, this is something that life does not want me to do. So, what is the next step? Now, in the year 2021, I also met one of the very humble, generous, and he is the godfather. Um, and he is working as a director in the automotive consulting firm. He guided me to work with him for my internship, and then he appointed me as an assistant manager. Over that period of time, I started realizing my strengths, that, what my real strength lies in. And based on his recommendation, he said, why don't you go for a PhD? I thought, PhD, I was always wanting to do that, but maybe it was the backup option. He said, no, you should go for PhD and explore something which is very interesting, which will hold value even after 10 years. I said, I don't know that, whether I'll be so capable of contributing to the intellectual discourse, because there are a lot of authoritative people in the discourse who are contributing in such an outstanding and impeccable manner. Where would I stand with them? So I gave my entrance, cleared my interview, cleared my research proposal presentation. Then, when my journey at FORE, where I'm currently a doctoral scholar, pursuing my research in international business area, I want to highlight this, that entering FORE changed my life upside down, because of the institute, that the institute offered such good research academic environment that I would able to converse and delve deeper into enriching conversations with a lot of faculties and a lot of other fellow scholars. And secondly, because of the credit goes to both my supervisors. My first supervisor is wholeheartedly expert on Indo-Pacific, China's geopolitics, and a geopolitical and trade expert as well. So meeting him was another game changer in my life, because the way he taught, way he inculcated those skills perhaps was very, very different. And over the period of time, I still realize when I look back that, things have changed so much. And talking about my course supervisor, he has been always a research methodology expert. And based on his inputs, based on his support and the moral support that he always provided, gave me instilled that confidence in me that, there are a lot of things that I am capable to do. And both my supervisors have always been of the impression that there's nothing that you cannot do. You can do it, certainly, with the right mindset, with the right efforts, and with sheer determination and dedication. So this actually inspired me. Okay, I was like boosting that, now I have got the best supervisors, and I will do my research focus very nicely, and will do everything wholeheartedly so that I get everything, I understand everything. And then came the time when I had to choose my topic, and I wanted to understand, this geopolitics, political risk, because I come from political science background. So I also wanted to focus a bit on political risk, because which is the rising risk in the emerging markets. And since then, my confidence has been just building up. I have been attending international conferences, one being in Korea, the other one in Denmark. Then the most recent one was in the United States of America, and the other national conferences as well. And lastly, I would also want to highlight, you would definitely be knowing this fact that, a very curiosity and inquisitive. I wanted to participate in the lectures of IAPSS as well. So, that's the voluntary role that I work with such an organization. And, somewhere or the other, every day I feel that, my learning is just going strong. It's like I I have this mantra in my life. It's like you learn, relearn, and unlearn. So that is what I follow, and that is what my academic journey has been. I have been focusing a lot on mentoring students as well, being a guiding light in them, because at the end of the day, when you have somebody giving you guidance, you would want to contribute back to the society. So same way, I'm trying my bit. I'm trying my hard to contribute back to the society, and hopefully, if I do justice with my research, if I contribute well, I think my name would be counted as one of the good scholars.
Absolutely, Soumya. Thank you so much for providing us such an inspiring story. And when you were saying when you were mentioning that you have a passion, you had a passion of pursuing career in IPS or IAS officer, that reminded me of my young age, of my earlier career as well. So I happen to have that similar passion and similar attraction towards joining bureaucracy or public policy, public sectors, right? I did also give a couple of attempts. It's called CSS here and IES in India. So we do have some similar or the alignment in terms of career aspiration. We again, as I said in my introduction, that we had the chance of working together. This is perhaps would be a one-on-one interaction, but we did share a couple of other platforms. I remember when you hosted the webinar, that special webinar on the issues of statelessness and in Bangladesh, and you've done an amazing job while moderating this. And and you spoke about giving lectures voluntarily at IEPS, and I have been following your lectures. And there was that one series you guys initiated called research. You worked with Aman, right? What was his name? Or what
Yeah,
the special?
yeah. So
Yeah,
this
the
was
research methodology.
IAPS Archive Masterclass. Yeah.
Yeah, Archive Masterclass. You've done tremendous job over there. So
Thank you so
kudos to you
much.
and good luck to what you are doing. So, so from your personal journey, now we would be focusing on our theme today. So when discussing tolerance, as you said, you would like to give back to your society or the people you mentor. When discussing tolerance in geopolitics, definitions vary culturally and politically. Like, what is the definition of tolerance in your dictionary, right? And or also in a global context, and why do you think it remains difficult to universally, operationalize it. As you know, it's a lot of, the chaos happening around the world. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's indeed a very interesting question that you had put forward, Furqan. So now, a word tolerance and geopolitics go in tandem. So now it's better we focus on each of these words separately. So, talking about my perception of how do I perceive tolerance around all the societies and how it should be taken care of is that the word tolerance in itself is a commitment from an individual, you know, with an ability to recognize, respect, or accommodate the belief, perception, and the cultural variation of a person belonging to a different community. Now, it is not always possible that, you and me share a same belief or a perception, right? It could be very, very different coming from two different countries, two different communities. However, what would be amazing to see is that we are accommodating each other's belief, each other's perception of what you preach, what I preach. This is what tolerance is all about. Tolerance is not about, okay, what one is preaching and what other is preaching, you are not able to accommodate the belief of the other person. So it's a, I always believe that, EB Taylor, a very prominent sociologist, has always said that, in a society when you live, it's a set of shared values, beliefs, and assumptions. So it's always that, you know if we have this ability to actually tolerate those beliefs, those perceptions in a positive manner, a lot can be balanced. Okay. We only, what we think is that, okay, in different parts of the world, there is certain politics and geopolitics involved. And that will always be there, irrespective of what we do. But talking about the individual level, we all are very mm, much responsible for advocating a change. It starts from one person and then ends up in the community, binded together. So it's very, very necessary for an individual to be very active, and not be very passive, in the sense that, okay, I don't care what the other person is doing. I don't care what he or she is following. I mean, that's not a very tolerant behavior that you're trying to, project in front of the other individual, but it's rather considered intolerant. Moreover, I would take this discussion forward that even in the organizations, if you see right now, no matter, not focusing particularly on emerging markets, but on developed markets as well, the way to respect, the way to dignify people is always taught to them, is always been at the helm of affairs. People take undue importance on this, that, we need to be very respectful. And that way, people also learn to abide by the different, aspects of recognition and respect, which is acknowledging the equal dignity of the other person. So it should not be always that, you are just considering yourself above the whims and fancies of the other person. It cannot be like that. Further, it is also about accommodating. And there could be differences in terms of the hierarchies in the society, which has been categorized under the social stigma. So when we say that, there should be a culturally rich heritage expression, we should be very accommodative towards the people who are also coming from the marginalized communities. It's very, very important that, we accommodate their belief as well, and not just impose what we think is right, rather than understanding their viewpoint as well. Now, when we see tolerance, I understand there's a limit to disagreement or agreement as well. Something which you can tolerate without endorsing it is okay. Now, sometimes if you think that something is not right, maybe you can endorse it with the approval, with very polite and a very, requestable manner. This is how I see tolerance, because, otherwise, everywhere, if we don't possess this kinds of tolerance towards the other person, people will run aggressively. and which is very dependent on at the moment right now on shrinking the world. We don't want that. So it's like, what you have seen over the years, what you've seen, how societies are built up, how communities are being binded together. So I never blame, a community or a nation for that matter. I always feel that it's a matter of responsibility and sense of dignity. Individuality comes from the individual itself. So if I feel that I want people to be tolerant towards me for what I am doing, I should be doing and advocating the same to their beliefs as well. Now, the question is now why we haven't been able to operationalize this so much. There's a lot of things that lies ahead. Now, why it is that? Because there's issue of universalism, there's also an issue of cultural relativism. And with these two dimensions, when I'm talking, the core tension, the core bifurcation that lies is in that even after having so many charters, even after having so many frameworks or mechanisms in place, we are only arguing that this person has not been very respectful enough to me, and I have not been very reciprocative of that fact, and that's the reason I indulged in a fight or in a coercive manner, or it led to an argument. So there has been differing historical experiences on that. It could be I come from a culture where certain traditions are not respected, or maybe this other person is coming from a culture where certain traditions are respected which are not respected in my culture but his or her culture. So it's a community of a nation which is focusing on both multiculturalism experience and multilateralism experience. So when I say multilateralism, is like, you know uh, if we have the institutional framework, institutional mechanisms in place, both will go in cooperation and a lot can be changed. A lot can be changed. Now, there are different political structures. So, what might be true in one community might not be susceptible to others, right? So, what might be superior in one thing, what might be inferior to the other community. So that variation in the political structures, it's not standardized. It's very different. So that is why I think one of the only sole reason is that we humans, we don't take the accountability and the responsibility ourselves, but we rather start blaming what is happening, what the governments are doing, but what the policymakers are doing. But the question is, that is again on a macro level, and that is a difficult thing to think about beyond a certain point. But from one perspective, from each individual level, how can we improve the social stigma? How can we improve the social hierarchy? Depends on us, you know. And this belief, Furqan, whether you agree or not, but it does emanate from one mindset, and it starts, creating the same mindset altogether. So it is, how about what is your approach seeing that tolerant behavior? So because I also believe that everybody has a different definition of what is tolerant for them and what is intolerant for them. So again, that has to be approached very in a liberal manner, so that we all can accommodate each other's belief and lead to a very peaceful coexistence for what we have always been taught in the international world order.
Thank you so much, Soumya, for, I would say, very academically responding to this critical question. When I say critical, I did have a follow-up question, if you allow me, because you said two things that may for certain societies differ. You said accommodating. I also learned from a professor who had made up his golden rules, inspired from his senior ones, or that you accept others as you want to be accepted, right? So or behave with others as you want to be behaved, right? So the follow-up question would be, don't you think that the people now have been moved, or are have moved beyond tolerance, in terms of, because Majority of the social scientists or political scientists or human rights experts define tolerance or consider word tolerance as a derogatory, right? So they might say there may be a question that why would somebody has to tolerate me? What wrong have I done, right? So uh, like 30 seconds or more, give us one more minute by responding and on this point of how do you see tolerance can be replaced with acceptance?
Okay, a very interesting question indeed, and very intriguing one. So why I feel that, how could we move forward with the acceptance of this idea of having a tolerant behavior? Because, I know why this question emanated in your mind when I talked about how why tolerance is perceived differently for one person and indifferently for the other person. Now, the idea is that we all in the institutional mechanism and the framework charter, if you go and see, we all have the place for universal human rights, universal charter, universal conventions, all that in place. And even we do have certain policy documents on, policy of tolerance, and how communities are accepted to bind in a agreement, whether they are able to accept one another. So it is also an idea of inclusion and exclusion, where, what we have been doing is that we have also been following our preconceived notions. So if we think that, with one or two things, so for example, if I think and I'm doing something which is might not okay for the other person, he or she will make that perception about me. Okay, this is something I don't like, and that's the reason I don't like this person. We start associating their behavior with the rest of the personality. Maybe that is one thing which is not right in us. And we start associating the whole individual parameter. And all of us, it's not the one person, we become we start becoming judgmental. We do that very often. So for example, if somebody is not wearing um, something, not wearing appropriate things, or somebody is not able to converse in Hindi, or somebody is not able to speak in English, all these things, we think that, okay, this must have been the reason that this person is not doing this must. So this means that we are not able to be very tolerant towards the other person and accommodating his or her own belief, but rather what we saw that, does not work for us, and we started judging the person according to that. We don't accept it that ways. And the ironical thing here is that we really need to highlight is that we start expecting the person to act the way we want to see them, which is very wrong, which is an intolerant behavior. And hence, this should only be eradicated, and be only, seen as that, this is something which is very inappropriate. If this thought will come into the minds of people, and the minds of the other communities as well, only then we'll be able to proceed. Because the idea of acceptance and rejection is solely based on the judgments that we pass on, Furqan. That is the only issue we have it right now.
Thank you
Once we
so much.
stop being very
Yeah.
judgmental to the other people, we I think we'll be able to accommodate their perception and beliefs more positively.
Yeah, I would call this response a true academic and an inspiring one. So yeah. So thank you so much for this follow-up question. Uh, Now we would be focusing towards a broader picture. So around the world, as we said it in my introduction, that rising nationalism, identity politics, polarization has been going on. And in your view, like what global shifts or events most significantly contribute to this increasing division? Especially you talked about culturalism, unilateralism, or societies.
Yeah. So this again, I think my whole academic research, what I've been focusing on, will all come today. So again, thank you, Furqan, for a wonderful question. So focusing more on global shifts driving the narratives of nationalism and polarization, I would want to focus on a couple of points. The first one is the discontent with the era of globalization and the economic insecurities associated with it. Now, why I say that? Because, the forces of globalization over the period of time did create aggregate wealth, which led to, a lot of job security, empowerment. However, this has also been resulted in consequences which has also been seen as the insecurities and unemployment, and which has been channeling as a resentment against the outsiders. Now, why I do it's that, because the nations are seeking to preserve their own national identity of their own citizens first, and rather than people who are coming from different countries. Now, this inequality has been taken into various forms. So it could be the international competitors who are trying to scale their business in the host country, coming from, for example, if one of the firm from China wants to go to US and scale their business, so again they become international competitor, or they want to scale their business, they would have to standardize according to the norms and the rules of the country they are trying to scale the business in. Second is migrants, who are migration has been a very uh, popular idea of, where migrants are just running and migrating from one place to the another, seeking a lot of things in terms of job security, seeking shelters, seeking refuge. A lot of things are again taking. Then they're taking jobs. Some we also have a section where people think that, these set of jobs are not available in the community I come from. Hence, it's better that, I move to some other community and, try my skills over there. Then cosmopolitan elites, of course, the again, I also mentioned about the business class, and how people are scaling their business and want to be budding entrepreneurs, not in their own community, but they want to move forward so that, they can learn, they can move forward, and they can actually abide by the large scale businesses if they move to a different community altogether. But the question is, we are always seeking ways of having this paradox in mind that, uh, if this is not sufficient, this is the option. If this is not sufficient, this is the option. And this actually leads to the uh, crisis of an identity, which I always believe. And this has always been the case, in terms of, if you read a lot of articles in the magazines, if you read a lot of articles in the newspapers, you see that, how this migrations and people are moving away with hunger, with poverty, and, with a lot of other issues that have been still there. It has not been eradicated. And we have also not been able to actually tackle it well. So that is one of the key issues that, I really feel that this economic insecurity around the world has to be taken care of. Second is the identity crisis, which is a very, very fundamental key point that we need to address in the post Cold War period. Now, why I say the post Cold War period is because the current era that we are living in is actually demarcated by a search for new technologies, new mechanisms, new framework, and new sense of belonging, whether it could be a national identity, it could be international identity, or a ethnic or a religious community, anything. And this has always been a very driving force, homogenizing force of globalization. So people don't know from which they community they come from, and rather they shift their uh, motive and paradox to a different world altogether. Now again, we have also been advanced by the digital revolution. We have AI in place, where everybody, almost everyone, is relying on AI software such as ChatGPT or DeepSeek to seek as platforms for to know more on the conduct of their business, and uh, how their business model will work in future. So everything Chat GPT or these AI have been helping them. Then of course there's a issue of eroding trust in the institution, jo we have been reading in the books for I don't know how many years, that we are not able to trust the institutions that we have in place. Because one day when we believe that, we want this particular institution to do something and to contribute well in the society, the other day something happens with the institute. So this everyday crisis has actually led to the distrust in the global world order. So that is why I always believe that there's been a threat to the our multilateral institutions, and the future of multilateral organizations is also in stake. And not a lot needs to be done in terms of how countries are coming together, forming a way out, and how they are going to forge that narrative is very, very important. And this peculiarly needs to be addressed at every forum, I believe, because what we saw multilateral institutions in a unipolar world, it was a different story altogether. Now, when we are in a multipolar world, it's a different story altogether. And yes, it's a tripartite arrangement where powers are delving deeper into zero sum games. However, different sections, different narratives have to be shaped and have to be addressed in order to drive the power of institutions back as they were. So that is what we can really do about it.
Yeah, absolutely, Soumya. I also have a follow-up question, but I'll just see whether we have a time or not. We have two questions left. You talk
Yeah.
about the erosion of trust within the organizations or in the organizations, right? I always have that similar, tendency of whenever I face uh, uh, a human rights expert or whenever I came across to any political scientist, I always ask them similar questions. In the presence of local legal institutions, why do we think that we need to knock the doors of, multilateral organizations, as in the case of ICCPR, Human Rights Commission, etc., etc., and knowing the fact that these organizations have been failing drastically in addressing these issues within their framework. So how would you perceive that? So I was also reading an article like a couple of days ago. An expert from on climate change or energy said that it's it's a dark or it's a slap on the face of civil societies and other organizations which have never joined on the issues of climate change. I mean, have you ever seen any protests or demonstrations made on the issues of global warming? I guess none. Have you ever seen any groups of civil society organizations joining for the climate crisis that we are facing? I mean, India also has been on the forefront on facing massive droughts, massive floods, and Pakistan also had been facing the same issues. So how do you see you all or somehow cover up that there is an erosion of trust? So don't you think that we first need to uh, put our house on address, and then we can, claim the leadership or the issues of our society?
Yeah, again, a very interesting question. So I think what I would agree with is that an individual does not hold accountable himself or herself in the society for whatever reason or whatever happens. People are always of the view that we do not want to indulge in if something is happening. Let's stay away from it. This is the common perception that people have. Other than that, it's very, very important, as you rightly pointed out, that before displaying that distrust in the institution, it is very imperative to also have that cooperation and cordial relationship with the stakeholders at the macro level. So now that includes the civil society as well, that includes your academic institutions, that includes your judicial and a lot other institutions as well. And certainly, when you have to have the support of a certain institution and then you feel that this is not being addressed properly the way we want to see it as addressed, that is the time when we start displaying that distrust to that particular institution. Okay, and it comes in variety of forms, whether formal legalities have not been completed, whether something that we wanted to be done on time has not been communicated. So there are several loopholes, there are several reasons which are associated with it. And I think this, the only way to address is to have a cordial relationship among the stakeholders involved. So only then, I think we can be able to bridge out the gap that we are facing in terms of displaying or eroding the trust in the institutions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Soumya, for this response. You talk about the trust and all that. That's a follow-up question. Uh, Not a follow, the actual question that I had most in mind. So many governments and institutions very gracefully consider and claim value to diversity, right? Yet, when it comes to implementation, they often fall short, right? So, what are the most effective policy frameworks that you think, or governance strategies you've seen that successfully foster inclusive society?
Yeah. So, see, the basic idea first, we really need to have stop having these preconceived notions for everything that we start attributing the persons with. That really needs to be stopped. Second is, I mean, there's no special policy that I would want to highlight that it should be in place. We all have, certain mechanisms and framework, but the real implementation lies in the people. Okay. If people themselves are not adhering to it, then the governments are not to be blamed, but rather the citizens themselves. Right. So I would want to quote an example of Dubai over here is that their laws and everything, legal formalities and everything is so much in place that even the citizens are very much responsible and they do everything graciously in form of implementing or executing it, the policy or adhering to the law. And that should be done, I think, in all the societies, and we really need to learn this from them, because sometimes it happens that, even the basic things, that if we see somebody throwing garbage on the road, polluting the environment, we don't stop them. Now why don't we do that? Like, the only common thought comes into our mind is, why to mess with the other person? It's fine, let him do it. And secondly is, the idea is that, there are other pieces of trashes which are lying, so what if I throw here? That is also the common attitude that is being exhibited. So I mean, it's all about the common idea and the idea that comes from within, how well you are able to yourself adhere to the moral aspects. Okay, so very basic, we have traffic signals. All of us are, asked to maintain the decorum and follow the traffic signals, but do we actually do it? We see that, the traffic signal or the traffic police is not there, let's just cross the red light. So that is not something that is on the part of the government that has to be in place, but rather the citizens themselves are responsible to it. I mean, there are a lot of examples that the question that you've raised now, it's coming in. I'm trying to, which one to put forward and which one to not. And also, the other is that, we always talk about that we have our own fundamental rights, we have our own human rights, we have our legal rights. That is all in place, but it is the civic sense that plays important. I always believe that. My experience in countries in the developed nations such as Korea and even US and Denmark was very, very different. I was also, when I visited countries, I was also able to follow that, there's so much cleanliness here that even I do not want to throw garbage anywhere except the dustbin. Okay. And I want to walk on the road dedicated to the pedestrians, not on the road dedicated to the cycle tracks, or So that is the difference, and that is the civic sense that that I think this is not something that needs to be taught, but it comes from within, and which people are lacking to inculcate in themselves. What they are doing, rather than learning, rather than inculcating in themselves, they are only exhibiting the assertive behavior in a form. Why this person is saying to me, I don't care. So no, so that attitude is kind of, um, till the time it is there, we will not be able to exhibit a effective policy framework. Whatever we have in place, we will have to manage with that. So we always say that there should be laws that could clearly demarcate that we should not discriminate everyone, we should treat everyone with dignity. Even though we have it in place, but are we able to accommodate it? Are we able to follow it? Perhaps no. And we, in that matter, we don't even have a right to question the legalities, the existing constitutions, the existing government policy. We don't have a right to question them, because when I have this attitude, okay, this particular rapper has to be thrown in a dustbin, I don't have to break laws on the road, I have to follow a traffic signal, then that is my civic sense which is guiding me. And I cannot be telling everyone that this is you need to do. So it's all about the civic sense and how we are being able to broad seeing the environment, which really needs to be very, very different, when only then the next generation will be able to learn up to that.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I can only happen. We can only hope that, yeah, the civic sense needs to become within. I must agree with you when you say when you explored countries like US and South Korea, your perspective may have shaped differently, right? And
Yeah.
the tendency always, comes that if they're keeping it clean, well, there's no way that we would like to exploit that, right? So you talk
Yeah.
about civic sense and breaking the signals. There are a lot of interesting memes going on in social media regarding the new laws that have been implemented in Karachi regarding the traffic laws, and I'm sure you must be very, you know, very surprised to see how people are reacting to that, because this is the
Yeah.
first time that the city or the mayor of or the commissioner of Karachi has imposed very stringent and very strict laws. Whoever breaks, traffic signal, आपके घर जाने से पहले ही आपको 5,000 की ticket आ जाएगी. So that's something that, is very, people have gone berserk and keep putting it lightly. People have designed traffic the belt over their t-shirts and all that. These memes are going on, so I must recommend you to watch those memes. So on a
Oh
lighter
my
note,
God.
we would be focusing, moving forward towards the end part of this podcast, which have been really riveting and really academically enriched. Uh, uh, as you touched upon the rise of AI and the AI migration patterns, such as social media and geopolitical tensions, which are reshaping human interactions. What new opportunities or challenges and risks do you foresee for the future of global tolerance and coexistence?
Okay. So now, since the main part of my research comes here, where you talked about the opportunities and risks, let me focus on quite a few. So, the forces that we have been discussing all the way throughout this podcast has also been one of the ideas that how when we are looking for ample number of opportunities or ample number of solutions, there are going to be certain risks. So the first one is the technological risk, as I also mentioned about the AI surveillance and the cybersecurity aspect. So technological risk is one of going to be the very, very much prevalent form, because now AI has also has this ability to amplify and harness the data, big data, which is like your predictive big data analytics, in terms of almost all disciplines. And it's not something that you even if you don't have a thorough knowledge about the subject, but you have AI, you can still do something with it. So that is one of the most important and pertinent risks that the global world order will definitely is facing. And it's a different narrative that the world is set to see it as a taking form of a geopolitics. Now this both technological risk and geopolitics has an intersection, and certain factors are associated with it. So all these things, if you see with AI, countries who are investing on AI, how it is being, the data is being taken care of. So it is all in the process, and certain kind of geopolitics is also involved. Now AI is also used as a medium of geopolitics. So it has also acquired a significance of geopolitical risk in today's era. So that is one thing that we'll need to be really really be taken care of. Second is, of course, the geopolitical risk, the strategic rivalry, the foreign direct investment, the home and the host country relationships are very very important in determining the risk. So when we see that um, two countries or two communities are not sharing a good bilateral relationship, then or the trade mechanisms is not smooth enough. And as happened when President Trump had imposed certain kind of discounted reciprocal tariffs, which actually incurred a lot of loss on the economy. So that was one of the geopolitical risks that the countries were facing. Thirdly is also the issue of business, who are trying to invest in the host country. I mean, if the business is from coming from India to China, China to US, or whatever. Again, that's a form of political risk. If they uh, face certain kind of government changes, if they see changes in policies, regulations, expropriation, all those sort of factors, if they feel associated with it, that's another kind of risk. So of course these are the risks that are definitely going to be there, because political instability, political unrest, it's going to be the core of every economy. When we try to bring in something new on the table, there are protests, there are consequences on that as well. And something which we can bring in differently is definitely much debatable in today's society. So governments are doing their bit. Governments are trying to suppress everything with the use of predictive data analytics and um, big data. They are trying to manage huge amounts of data and tackling geopolitics, but a lot has to be done. So where we see that AI is also a disruptor, governments have also started look at AI as a tool for inclusion. It's a form of global connectivity and empathy, where people are abiding digital platforms, and citizens are also offering unprecedented opportunities for delving deeper into cross cultural games, so learning about each other culture. So that is what AI has typically harnessed about. And of course now the question is that how you can innovate yourself. So that is a different story altogether, where you can into get into something which is very very different, and you would want to bring something very different on the table, that something which has not been done before. So you come up with an innovative idea, and again that acquires and becomes a very popular ray, where everybody starts to follow that trend. So, of course, there are going to be ample number of opportunities, but yes, risks involved are definitely going to be there. It all depends on how you are going to follow that approach.
Yeah, thank you so much, Soumya. You have been absolutely amazing, and it was an absolute honor and pleasure having you. So on this very note, I would say that your insights and the comments that you have made were absolutely thoughtful and are very reflective in terms of academic notions. Conversations like these reminds us that tolerance is not merely a moral idea. It's a geopolitical necessity, whether it's a digital tolerance or human behavior. or culturally different people or politically different ideas. So it's about accommodating and accepting each other's views, each other's the way they believe, the way they uh, where they perceive their faith. So in many different manners. So to our audience, thank you so much for joining us, and we would always invite you to connect with us through our different means of platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, which is now X, and LinkedIn, and follow for more interesting discussions like this. So thank you so much.